Hey, fellow theme park buffs, Englentine, the homegrown tourist here, and I've been waiting to do this for a while, man. Seriously, I've been wanting to do this. It's a bracket. It's of course should have saved it for March so we could have March Magic Kingdom Madness, but whatever. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go through. I've put ride against ride, and we're gonna talk about why we like each one over the last one. We're gonna put them together and find out, through actual discussion, what is the best and what is the worst rides in the Magic Kingdom. Everybody here's been to the Magic Kingdom at least once, right?
Yep. Indeed.
Cool. It's one of my favorite parks. Not my favorite park in Disney, but I'm getting old and I'm realizing Epcot looks so much better now as an older guy. I need to slow down. Actually, Animal Kingdom, I love that one just a touch. Where do you stand on that one, Tim?
I agree with you. I like Epcot a whole lot, but I'll tell you something is Magic Kingdom has kind of waxed and waned. When I was a kid, I really liked it. And then when I was a teenager, it kind of dipped, but it's rallied back up. I think it's probably my second favorite of the four main theme parks.
That's pretty cool. Now, before we get going on that, and so we can build a little bit of an audience and such, Mark, you just read an article about a movie that they're making. Please tell us why you're excited and or why not.
Well, I guess this is going to be a spoiler alert for the stream. It's going to pretty much give away what my favorite ride of the Magic Kingdom is.
Oh, hold on, then don't go, don't tell us that.
Well, no, I mean, anybody who knows me, my handle is Pella Creepy, and they know I love horror movies, so it's not a surprise to anybody. So they're making a new Haunted Mansion movie. And I mean, the Eddie Murphy movie was bad. There were parts of it where I could see that, the movie's not funny because it's the Adventures of Pluto Nash era Eddie Murphy where he wasn't funny. He was just doing crap after crap. But I could see that there was at least some people making that movie who knew their Disney, who knew their Haunted Mansion stuff. And there are just tons of elements from the ride, and all versions of the ride, all throughout that movie. It's kind of like the Super Mario Brothers movie where it's not a good adaptation of the source material, but there's enough Easter eggs in there. It's kind of fun to do a Where's Waldo of that movie.
I have a confession to make that I made to the other guys before you jumped on. I enjoy the Haunted Mansion movie with Eddie Murphy.
Well, there has to be someone out there who liked that movie, so I guess it's you.
I said enjoy, sir.
Enjoy, but now, that's different from like.
Yeah, I recognize all the faults, but still, I actually do like all the Easter eggs. I think, like you said, also and this might actually make it worse, but for as bad as it landed, I actually could tell there were some people who cared.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that when I watched that movie, it's not a good movie, but you can find parts in it that you can tell that care and detail. It's like there's this channel on YouTube called Good Bad Flicks, where he does these mini documentaries on overlooked movies or movies that people just kind of wrote off as bad. And when he tells the story of how those movies were made, even though they turned out bad, you know that a lot of people he gives credit to all the people who tried to make a good movie, even if it didn't turn out that way.
I feel that way. I'll give a plus for Wallace Shawn and Terrence Stamp any day.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, there were good people in that movie. Even Jennifer Tilly, and she wasn't a bad Madame Leota. She was a different kind of Madame Leota, but I didn't mind her. They got grim grinning ghosts in there, they got the singing bust and all that. But they're doing a new one, and the new one, what immediately made me go, never mind, is that it's being written by one of the people who wrote the 2016 Ghostbusters reboot.
No!
And I remember when they were saying that they're going to reboot Haunted Mansion and it was going to be directed by Guillermo del Toro, but they sidelined that for so long he went and made Crimson Peak instead, which was basically just him recycling all of his stuff for Haunted Mansion and putting it into an original movie. The same way he did with, he was supposed to do a reboot of Creature from the Black Lagoon, and Universal sidetracked that for so long, he just went and made Shape of Water. That's what Del Toro ends up doing. So now instead of getting a Del Toro Haunted Mansion movie, we're getting a 2016 people who made Ghostbusters Haunted Mansion movie.
Okay,
and,
that's just suffering incarnate in that. Like if you compress the essence of suffering into a single news headline, that just about did it.
It's like that phrase where people say, "This is why we can't have nice things." Like, we can't have nice things. We couldn't have a Del Toro Haunted Mansion movie. We're getting a 2016 Ghostbusters Haunted Mansion movie. Like,
here's the thing. I think that this movie can be saved so long as every joke revolves around the main cast doing some sort of silly and stupid dance. My thinking was the reason why the 2016 Ghostbusters failed the way it did, it was only because it had 20 or 30 of those jokes. Had it upped it a bit more to about 100 to 1,000.
Oh, yeah, right? Just do the ratio, right? Like one of those bad, scary movie sequels. We're just going to do like 50 shitty jokes, like coming at you rapid fire. And if one of them lands, then it's a victory.
BT Dubs, I heard some of the writers for Universal Halloween Horror Nights, the Bill and Ted show, started writing things like disaster movie. And when I see him go, "Hey, here's Napoleon Dynamite," and the guy just, I think, yeah, that fits. So Dragon Ball Talk is saying Taco Bell had a gas leak, so he's leaving because people are dropping like flies. I'm thinking Taco Bell gave us all gas leaks at one point in time. It's about time they got one of their own. So anyway, after the fart joke, like
nowhere to go but up from here. All right.
Yes, for the longest time, I've lived here all my life. I'm like right down the street, around the corner from Magic Kingdom, and my first time was in '71. So I've never had a time where Disney wasn't a big part of my life. But what gets me is when people say Walt Disney World, it amazes me how many times they are actually referring to Magic Kingdom. It's my second favorite park, third favorite actually, if I'm being honest. Epcot, Animal Kingdom, Epcot, and then that one. But I love this thing to death. And what we're going to do here is I've got things in brackets, and I'm going to put these rides against each other, and we're going to figure out what is the best. And we're going to do this until we come up with the last ride standing, and that it will be the best ride of Magic Kingdom. I know where you're headed, Mark, but we're going to figure out where everybody else is as well. And by all means, ladies and gentlemen, in the comments section, play along. Might as well. And if you think we're wrong about something or we're full of crap, say we're full of crap. Don't use the other word, because I try not to use the cussing on this channel. Although of everybody in this particular group, I'm the one that breaks my own rule more than anybody else. All right, so let's get this particular party started. Oh, hold on. Let me grab a couple things here on the side. RDV said Dragon is Taco Bell. It's okay. There you go. Another gas leak thing. Christopher Walken's second worst movie, right behind Balls. Whoa! Mark, you and I just don't agree on anything.
Also, Christopher Walken was in Kangaroo Jack.
Haunted Mansion?
Plus, he's the armpit farter. He was the best thing about Country Bears. That's not saying
there is no best thing about Country Bears. It's Country Bears.
Also, lest we forget, Christopher Walken was in Kangaroo Jack, so there is no lower bar than that.
I was in Kangaroo Jack.
Did you just say you love Kangaroo Jack?
No, I said he was in Kangaroo Jack. No one loves Kangaroo Jack.
No, that was
actually funnily enough, I watched that movie a lot when I was a kid. I acknowledge that it's bad, but I still there's a nostalgia factor for Kangaroo Jack.
If you want to take a chance on Country Bears, here's what I gotta say. Watch Christopher Walken. He's the only one who knows he's in a Country Bears movie, and he goes all freaking in, man. That could possibly be the most Christopher Walken you're ever going to see him, Christopher Walken. And he plays.
I will say, go on. Yeah,
he plays an armpit farter. I mean, literally.
That's the crescendo of the movie. That is what the whole movie is. That's the climax where he reveals at the very end that I fart with my armpits, and he does that, and that's where everybody's
beautiful thing, sir.
You know what? I will say this about Christopher Walken, just as an actor, is that it doesn't matter if he's doing the Dead Zone with David Cronenberg or the freaking Country Bears. He puts 110% of it into every role, and he's amazing. Yes.
Yes, a horrible film with two things going for it: Brian Setzer on guitar and Christopher Walken, the armpit farter. The two sides of musical glory right there. All right, let's get this particular party started. We're going to talk about the Magic Kingdom rides, what's worst, what's best. And what I'm going to do is we're going to go right on down the line. I'm going to start off with Dalton here. And I want to know, Dalton, if you had your choice Would you take the Walt Disney World Railroad tour around the side, or would you take that riverboat tour with the Liberty Square?
I'd have to say the railroad, because I didn't get a chance to do the boat tour around Liberty Square. So
alrighty. So what do you like about the railroad?
Well, I've always just liked trains. There's something so nostalgic about an old school locomotive to me, and it's nice. And also, it screams of the era of, you know, classic Disney, and I could totally see Uncle Walt really getting a kick out of seeing all of his work in that sort of panoramic riding around the entire perimeter of the park scope. There's something old school charming about a locomotive in general, but being as it's a Disney locomotive, you can sort of see living history of Disney itself kind of come to life there a little bit, I think.
Alrighty. How about you, Tim? Where would you stand on the railroad versus the Liberty Square riverboat?
That is a really good matchup, and I think that the train would edge it out for all the reasons that Dalton said. I think primary to that is the fact that Walt loved trains, and so it's almost like obligatory that should just stay as an homage, because it's basically it's I was about to make an oxymoron by saying a giant miniature, but anyway, it's a full-size train that Walt would have wanted, but it serves a purpose that the Liberty Square steamboat does not, which is it's practical in that it's also a means of transportation around the park. So it actually has dual functionality. It serves as an attraction. At the same time, it's also a very expedient way of getting around. And a lot of people forget about it. I know that there was one year that Mark and I, like, it didn't even dawn on me. I was like, oh man, we got to walk from, where were we? I think Storybook Circus all the way to the park. And I just thought, wait a minute, let's just take the railroad. And we just happened to be there when the railroad came by. So that was fun, because it's like, hey, how often do we do this? We actually, most of the time, don't even think about the perimeter. We just do everything on foot.
Yeah, and you walk fast, man. I'm a fat man. I'm a professional fat man. I actually revel in my fatness. And you're like, woo, we're going to Magic Kingdom. And it's, hold up.
Leave it to the skinny Asian writer, folks.
And the only person faster than me is Mark, because he's the tall white boy.
All right,
I got legs for days.
Let's go to the tall white boy then, and close this one out. Or do you keep it going? Which one would you choose, the railroad or the or the Liberty boat?
Well, I gotta choose the railroad. I mean, they both in a way serve a similar purpose. It's kind of like it's almost like a people mover that's a bit more interesting, where you just sit down and it just like chugs around in a circle, while an audio player like narrator gives you some deepest lore about the attractions. It reminds me of the monorail scene from the Tiny Toons movie, where like Plucky and all them are riding the monorail and they're looking at all the rides, and they're talking about how cool the rides are, and they get back in their car and they go home. But I like the train better. I just have better memories of the train, just because what we used to do is we used to go for New Year's Eve at Disney World, and that was fun for a couple of years. I don't know if I want to do that again, because it's a grind. But you want to keep moving and you want to keep circulating. But even the people mover, once you do your circuit, they make you get off. The train, they never make you get off. So we would just sit on the train and we just circulate around the park like 3 or 4 or 5 times until we felt rested and wanted to get up again, which is nice. It's better than sitting on a park bench and not moving anywhere. At least you're seeing stuff. So I have good memories of the train. The riverboat we've done a couple times, and Tim knows a story I'm about to tell because he was there. We were on the riverboat, and one of the people in our group, she was bored, and she looked over at the lady next to her, a complete stranger, and just decided to start up a conversation with her, and asked her, "Are you having fun?" And we were like, no, don't do this. This is a bad idea. And that lady talked, and she had this thick Boston accent. And before she even got the first syllable out, we knew where this was going to go. And she's like, oh, I'm having a terrible time. Oh, I have 200 band students, and none of the magic bands worked, and no one knows what freaking thing. And then just the entire riverboat ride, she was just going on and on about how awful the whole trip has been. And like we couldn't even hear the narration over the audio. We're like, oh God.
All because you said, hey, new person.
Yeah, right. And this lady just decided to vent. And I guess that was good for her. She needed to get it off her chest. She wasn't rude to us. She was just complaining about Disney and how terrible her band trip has been. But we're like, oh, that kind of just. So whenever I think of the riverboat, I think of that experience. Yeah,
you need a new experience so you can at least make it a better one. Right. So there you go. The Walt Disney Railroad. It's a complete shutout on that one. What would you say, Prof?
I was going to say the riverboat.
Okay, now why would you have if just what is it about that you like better than the train?
I just find it more peaceful than the train. Whenever we're just standing there and we're going across the water and you can see Tom Sawyer Island, I just find it a much more pleasant experience than a train.
No, that's legit. That's legit. The thing that I have, though, is half of the scenery that you see on the riverboat is on the train. Because when they do the circle, like the first part, even there used to be a cabin on fire, and it had a story behind it. But now I don't know if they relit the cabin, but I remember it was out for a while, and it's one of those things that nobody is really excited about. So if it goes out, if it goes down, it takes forever for them to fix. And if some elements of the scenery are down, it's not as exciting around the riverboat. At least the train, like I got to go with what Tim said. It's functional as well as enjoyable. But once they make that circle and they're heading back, like all the stuff on basically the left side is viewable from the train as well. So I kind of dig that. I would have to go with the train also myself, but there you go. All right, let's head on over to Mark. Mark, I'm giving you this is a tough one, man. These aren't exactly alike, but they aren't anything alike, Mark. I'm lying here. They're nothing alike. How about Goofy's Barnstormer versus the Tomorrowland Speedway?
Barnstormer by a country mile. And I'm not passionate about either ride. I don't know too many people who are passionate about those rides. I'm sure there's a niche group for each of them. Barnstormer, it's a kiddie coaster, but I find those more fun than whatever the heck Speedway is, where you're in these little go-karts that are on rails and go super duper slow. And there's nothing to that ride. I remember actually going on that when so the first time I went there was 1991 when I was 6, and I wasn't really impressed with it then, and I wasn't impressed again when I went as an adult, and it's just not a ride I really enjoy.
You are incredibly young.
I must be incredibly young, yes. I don't feel young, but that made me feel good. Thank you.
It's all perspective, I guess, because Professor's like, no, he isn't. Okay. I'm going to bring this one on over to Dalton. Dalton, where do you stand? Barnstormer versus Tomorrowland Speedway. Have you done either of these?
I have done the Speedway, I believe. And it's going to be another situation where I have to go with the one that I've actually done. Because on general principle, I avoid roller coasters in general. I'm not really a coaster person. And that's even more so with little, kind of kiddie coasters, because it's like that. It's all of the annoyances of a roller coaster without any of the possible enjoyments of a roller coaster. I believe like 15 when we went, so it wouldn't have been enjoyable even if I had done the Barnstormer. So I'm going with Tomorrowland Speedway. Although I will say, Tomorrowland Speedway as an attraction in concept doesn't really make sense to me, because it always feels a little weird when you can do things at a amusement park that you can do just in general.
Uh-huh.
And it's one of those kind of situations with that, I think.
Alrighty. How about you, Pref? Where are you going?
I'm going to have to go along with Mark and choose Barnstormer. And I actually, before they changed it to the circus, back when it was basically Toontown, Barnstormer was much better then. But even still, between the two, Barnstormer wins out by a lot. Yeah. It's just so much more enjoyable. Like, if you're going to ride something, sure, it's only a minute of quick thrill, but it's better than just sitting around and going in a circle.
Alrighty. Okay. I'm gonna take the vote here, and because I'm leaving this up to Tim to break the tie. I've got to go with the Tomorrowland Speedway, and here's why. Both of them could have long lines, but at least you're going to be on the Speedway for more than a minute. And yes, it goes in a circle, Professor, but it's like, okay, wait. Back problem, and we're out. Also, as I've said before, I'm a fat guy, and those seats are that big. It's one of the most uncomfortable rides I've been on as a skinny guy and a fat guy. But here's the thing. I also agree with what Mark said. I'm not thrilled with, Tim backed out of the tiebreaker.
Man.
I scared him.
He didn't want all that pressure, you know?
I guess.
He rabbit hopped away.
That westerly wabbit.
But the thing is I agree with Mark that neither one of these are thrilling attractions here. And I see, I basically see the whole area for Speedway could have been another attraction. I mean, it's go-karts. It's like Dalton said, it's go-karts, guys. Okay.
You know, I might have some slight bias towards Goofy's. Wow, the name just left me. Barnstormer. Because when I was, I think about 15, we went one night, and it was the last ride we were going to do. So we went on, and after the first ride, nobody was in line. And so the people said, do you want to go again? And we got to do that sucker 3 more times. And it was fantastic. That was one of the best days at the park I've ever had.
I had a good time with my daughters when they were young enough for the go-karts to be exciting and everything. But once you're able to actually drive, there's nothing to it. So I see the like I said, I see the good and the bad of both, but if I'm waiting in line for any amount of time, I've got to go Tomorrowland. POTUS, where do you stand on this one?
I stand with the Barnstormer.
All righty, the roller coaster wins.
Yes, and the reason why is because even though I have nostalgic memories about the Speedway, the reality is that every time I've ridden it, it wasn't an enjoyable experience. I mean, the gas fumes they always smelled bad. Like I always felt like I was going to cough up a lung, but every single time I've ridden it, the track layout designed in a way where I think like every car has almost no functionality. You're going to run into that little bar that goes underneath. Yeah, and you're just banging around. It's not an enjoyable experience. But going back to the heart of the matter, even though like I think some people who argue in terms of which theme rides should go and which ones should stay, in a way you already have a spiritual successor to the ride, just not in the same park, and that would be Test Track. Now, the key difference is that you don't control the car, the Test Track, but even with the Speedway, when you do control it, it's not an enjoyable experience. So even though the Barnstormer, I think, is kind of the bare bottom as far as a roller coaster experience can go, it's at least what it is supposed to be, which is a roller coaster.
Okay, so the Barnstormer takes it. All righty. Moving on to the next bout. The next two, I think these are very similar attractions. So I had to put these two against each other. I'm going to start this one off, and it's Enchanted Tales with Belle versus Monsters Laugh Floor. Now, the Enchanted Tales of Belle is you go into Belle's house, not their castle, but the actual Belle's original with her father house, and she tells the tale of Beauty and the Beast. It's got two things that stand out about it, in my opinion. One is it's got this really good audio animatronic wardrobe. And I think Lemire is his name, right? The candle. Yeah. And then the one part that always sticks with me is and I still haven't 100% figured it out, is you're looking at this tiny mirror. And they do the magic spell, and the mirror expands right in front of your face, not just to be a door, but to be like an open door to the hallway. And it's like, how? It's like, how did you do that? And it's so awesome. So it's got that going for it. The other one, Monsters Inc. Laugh Floor, is you write your joke in the eye, you give it to them, they tell the jokes to you, they point to certain people, make fun of them, and that's the thing. It's really just kind of an improvisational comedy show with the monsters from Monsters Inc. Neither one of these I care for. And when I'm thinking about it, when I'm talking about it, I don't really care to do either one again. But I have been known to go up to the line and say, excuse me, is there any way I can just go in and watch the Enchanted Tales with Belle? All I want to do is see the special effects and then leave, because I don't want to see the rest of the show, which is much like the Monsters Inc. Laugh Floor, where they'll get volunteers to recreate the story. So I've got to go with Enchanted Tales. Professor, where do you stand?
You left out the neat thing that Monsters Inc. has. Yep. Monsters Inc., they have it where you can text in a joke, and Mike's nephew will read it out towards the end of the show. But even then, I have to go with Enchanted Tales of Belle. It is, whenever you step through that mirror, it is truly mind-boggling.
Alrighty, so you're going with Monsters Inc. All right.
No, I'm going with
Enchanted. Oh, okay. I missed that. Sorry. Alrighty, so we've got two. Tim, where do you stand? Which one would you go to?
I would go with Monsters Inc. And the reason why is, even though I agree completely that the effect is really neat, the repeatability of that attraction pretty much ends right there. With Monsters Inc., there's always the novelty of the fact that you're watching a show where the show is basically doing something in real time and it's interacting, which by itself is really neat. Now, your mileage might vary depending on the quality of the jokes that are told. Obviously, they can't tell like dirty jokes and stuff like that. But there have been a couple of times where it's legitimately been hilarious. Though ultimately, in the end, I agree with you that both attractions, I think, are rather lackluster. They kind of lose their novelty pretty quickly. But the difference is that we've done the Monsters Inc. attraction at least 4 or 5 times, whereas we've done the Enchanted Tales with Belle one once, and then after that it's like, oh, that was cool, but if I want to see the mirror effect, I'll just go on YouTube and look up a video.
That is true. I do have that video here, by the way, and I in all honesty, I've only been a few times myself. Mark, how about you? Where would you stand?
So I don't like either show. It's like Tim said, they have next to no repeatability. Once you've done it once, you've done it. When we did, so I mean, obviously, I'm going to choose Monsters Inc. Just because when we did the Belle thing, the mirror was cool, but then the rest, it's really meant for little kids. It's story time. It has a cool mirror effect, but once you go through that mirror, it's just sit down and then Belle reads story time. And that's really cool. I guess if you've got some kids with you who are like 4 or 5 years old, they're gonna love it. When we went, I got chosen to be one of the knights who had to stand up at the front of the crowd holding a little popsicle stick with a picture of a knight on it. And I was like, oh, God, this is embarrassing.
I avoided that.
They somehow just like zeroed in on me. That was great. But that's okay because the actress playing Belle was pretty, so it was okay. But Monsters, Inc. is the same thing. But Monsters, Inc. reminds me a bit more of the Universal Studios monster makeup show, where you can tell that they're working from a script, and so you can see where everything's the same. But once they have to interact with the audience, they do have to improv a bit, and they can go a little off script and do something. So it's a little different each time, but it's not different enough each time to really make it worth waiting in line for. Yeah. So we have done Monsters, Inc. like 3 or 4 times. I'm not enthused enough to ever really want to do it again, because it's just really 90% the same thing every time and 10% a bit of improving. But I have to choose that one, I guess. Okay, so we are in an interesting position here, because the only one who hasn't voted has not done Enchanted Tales with Belle. So I'm going to say Dalton. After hearing what we had to say about both sides, which one interests you the most? And that's the one. Well, I'm going to say this because I have done Monsters Inc. Laugh Floor, and none of what you said about Enchanted Tales really changed my mind, especially because I have kind of a personal connection with Monsters Inc. Laugh Floor, because when we went and did it, my mom was one of the people that got picked by the camera and had to interact with Mike's nephew there. And it was the most hilarious thing, I think, the entire trip. Because the first funny thing was when the camera zoomed in on her, she was fixing, I think, her bra strap or her dress strap or something. And so it was the most awkward, compromising position she could have been in. And then Mike's nephew tells her to make this noise, and she couldn't make the noise. So he asked if she wanted to do something different, and then he made a completely different noise, which was still impossible for her to say. And so, like, the entire rest of that day of the trip, we were just laughing at my mom for having gotten picked. Alrighty, so you're going Monsters Inc. Yeah. Plus, I think Monsters Inc. From what you've described, works better with the theme of the movie that it's based on. Whereas mirror effects and special effects aside, it doesn't seem like they came up with anything very interesting for the Tales with Belle to be. So that makes sense. All right, let's go over to Tim. I've got 2 classic attractions for Tim to decide. He's going to start us off here. And in all honesty, it's not the easiest of choices. But, Tim, where would you stand if you had to get rid of either, or what is your favorite, I should say, between the Swiss Family Treehouse and the Enchanted Tiki Room?
Oh, my gosh. I would get rid of the Swiss Family Robinson Treehouse and keep the Tiki Room.
Now, why would that be?
Oh, my gosh. This is hard. I think the theming of the Swiss Family Robinson Treehouse is really cool, but the entire walkthrough attraction layout in practice is not very practical, because on a day where it's very, very busy, you don't have the time to actually appreciate what's actually in there. You're basically in a giant queue line for however long it takes you to make it through it. Typically in Disney storytelling, there is a theming and there's a story, but you're guided in a certain way. Now, in this case, you're guided through a giant queue line, but even at the end, I've been on it several times and I have no idea. I've never seen anything Swiss Family Robinson related. It just doesn't do a good job in terms of leaving an impactful story. The Enchanted Tiki Room, on the other hand, I've been through both incarnations, the one under renovation and I guess the modern version, which is basically just a revamp of its original form. Yeah. I know it. You know the song, as annoying as it is, the Tiki 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 Room.
I love that song, by the way.
I like it too, don't get me wrong, but the reason I say it's annoying is because I'm trying to look at objectively. I have nostalgia blinders on. I liked that attraction as a kid. I thought that the concept of these singing animatronic birds at the time was really cool. I'm actually really impressed that it holds up pretty well in terms of the humor. It's very wholesome. I like the fact that they use racial stereotypes in the Disney attraction. That's not see any modern attraction. I mean, heck, the parrot's name is like Jose.
Welcome to the tropical hideout. Yeah, but the main guy's a German, so take that out.
Yeah, his name is what was his?
Yeah,
das ist wunderbar. And what I like about it is it's fast, it's speedy. Mark and I and my wife will go in there on a hot day during a lull because we know there's never a line, so you know you're in and out within 15 minutes. And honestly, take a nap like in the last 5 minutes. I can't help it. Like, it's nice and cool in there, and it's cushioned seating. So I like it. I just like it a whole lot better.
I'm going to back you up on that. Look, I worked these two attractions when I worked out at Disney. I had to wear what they called the fruit suit. I'm like, thank goodness I graduated and went to another attraction. But the thing is I enjoy Enchanted Tiki Room. It's the original. It's not now. Well, the original is in California, but what I mean is that this is the original audio animatronic show, and in some ways it shows clack 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 clack. You can as the birds are singing, but the songs are fun. I like the bit with the tikis, the window, of course, the volcano. But you're absolutely right about Swiss Family. If you catch it on a not busy day, it's really cool to look around. If you catch it on a busy day, it becomes stairs, the attraction. You're up the stairs, you're down the stairs, done. What the did I just go through? And I did not cuss right there, guys. Pay attention. So, yeah, I absolutely have to go on the side of Enchanted Tiki Room here. It's a classic. I love the songs, love the ambiance and everything about it. And right outside, by the way, to the left is the Dole Whip. Okay, you know what, Mark? Where are you going to go? Are you going to save the Swiss Family? Or are you? Oh,
hell no. that doesn't count as cursing. But it's almost like, comparing apples to oranges. Tiki Room is a show, and Swiss Family is a playground where you can't actually do any playing. It's like a look but don't touch playground. Swiss Family, I did both attractions when I was 6 in 91. So I did them again, as an adult. So I actually have a pretty good memory of both. Swiss Family, when I did it as a kid, I thought it was a queue line for the Jungle Cruise. And then we got off.
Oh my gosh, so many people did.
I know, it's right there. You can almost see the Jungle Cruise from the tree. You're like, oh boy, I can't wait to do that, because it just seems like it should be a queue line, but it doesn't go anywhere. It's actually like Walt Disney. He was discouraged from doing walkthrough attractions. Like the Haunted Mansion was originally supposed to be a walkthrough, and he was told, don't do that because of all these problems with congestion, with people stopping to look at things, or people getting hurried along by the people behind them. They just don't work with high congestion. And Swiss Family is just like a living example of why there aren't more walkthrough attractions at the Magic Kingdom, because they don't work. It's like when you're parked when you're stopped at a red light, and the nanosecond it turns green, if you don't start moving, the guy behind you honks. That's what Swiss Family Treehouse feels like. It's the second the person in front of you starts moving, if you don't start moving, the person behind you will bump into you or go and you can't look at anything. It's not fun. Tiki Room is a great show. I loved it when I was a kid. I remember it really well. I remember the birds coming down. I remember when the walls come alive and the tikis that are embedded in the walls start singing, and you hear the thunder and the lightning, and it gets really dark and scary. I remember being scared and like huddling up next to my mom. It's a really immersive and really well done show. It just blows Swiss Family away, absolutely. So Tiki Room 100%.
Absolutely. That's a clear pick too. I understood when I was putting them together. I was like, there is no fair thing.
You're lining Swiss Family Robinson Treehouse up to be shot in the head. Is what you're doing.
I love the movie. I love the movie that it's based on. But
I have to unfortunately agree, because even though I love that treehouse, I really do love that treehouse. Walking through it.
He remembers the Swiss treehouse from when he was 6 and 8, and trusts his sidekick saying, All the birds sing words and the flowers croon in the tiki 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 room. All right, now I got that song stuck in my head. All righty. No, seriously, the only thing that this would have stood a chance against is Closed Now, and that was Stitch. Let's go over to an actual, in my opinion, this is actually a difficult choice here you've got, Professor, that you're going to start us off on. And which one would you choose, the Astro Orbiter or the Mad Tea Party?
Okay, now that
fine.
that is a hard choice because the Astro Orbiter is one of the best of those kind of rides, you know, where like Dumbo and the Magic Carpet, they're basically copies.
Yeah.
But Astro Orbiter is the best of those three.
Ours is better than Disneyland because they put it on top of the Wedway People Mover, so it's actually elevated.
Yeah, and you take the elevator up there. Yeah, no, I'm not even going to kid around. No, out of the two, I love the Mad Tea Party, but Astro Orbiter it's the winner. It is the best. I wish I knew the term for that kind of ride. But basically, you're going up there and you can see everything around you. It's one of the best visual locations of the park. You should always at least do it once.
Okay. Alrighty, so let's see. Dalton, how about this one? Astro Orbiter or Mad Tea Party?
Now hearing Pixel describe it, I wish I had done the Astro Orbiter, but because I haven't, I will defend Mad Tea Party. But I don't think I have a terribly hard job of defending the Mad Tea Party because, you know, this is one of those rides that everyone copies, whether they have a reason to or not. Every amusement park has some variation of the teacups, even if they have no tea-related or tea-themed properties to pull from, and I think there might be a reason for that. Also, I've always really liked Alice in Wonderland. It's one of my favorite sort of underappreciated Disney movies. So yeah, I'll go with the Mad Tea Party.
Okie dokie. Let's see. Who is next on the? I'm trying to keep it all fair, so we're not just a couple of people talking. And I think it's my turn actually. And goodness gracious, I love both of these rides. I really do. In my youth and in my children's youth, I may have gone one way. You know what? No, I still got to go in that direction. I've got to go with Mad Tea Party. I like the fact that you can have two different rides on this. And I'm going to spark off, like when I was a kid and when my daughters were young, they loved me spinning them to the point where one of my daughters actually started raising up. Elizabeth, the youngest one, I'm spinning it and she actually starts lifting off the teacup. We had to hold her down. They love this ride. Or you can still have a good spinny ride, but you don't spin the thing and it goes around and it does spin you a couple of times. You get to control the speed of your vehicle yourself. And so I'm going to go with Mad Tea Party. Mark, where do you stand on that?
I mean, I haven't done the Astro Orbiter, and I haven't done Aladdin's Carpet, but I've done Dumbo, and it's the same darn ride. So, I feel like I know what the experience is. But my choice is going to be Teacups. They're fun. I like that they're an unassuming ride. You know, people will wait in line for 3 hours to get into Big Thunder Mountain or Space Mountain, but it's always been a quick trip through the Teacups. People don't really think of them as a big ticket ride, so you don't have to wait very long. I like when I can control the wheel and I can make the person sitting next to me, like Tim, get really sick and go like, oh, where's the Dramamine? Oh, that's a lot of fun. So those teacups are great. They're also very historical. They're like an OG Disneyland ride. So there's something that when you're sitting in, you feel like you're sitting in a piece of history. Same thing with Dumbo. So I enjoy the teacups a lot.
I feel like some shots were fired there, Tim. What do you want to say?
I'll go with the teacups too, and the reason is because in all of the Disney theme parks, or at least on the Disney World Resort, there's only one ride that's fairly similar to it, and it's the spinning saucers attraction for Toy Story. And even then, that's kind of a stretch. So
yeah,
it stands alone in terms of its uniqueness as far as within the resort. Whereas, as you guys have said, there are carbon copies of the spinning Astro Orbiter type ride. The only difference, the key one, is the height. The Astro Orbiter is just taller, so the view is better, but it offers essentially the same thrill as the other attractions.
Yeah. Okay. That's a fair, but of those rides, I think Astro Orbiter is the better one. So the Mad Tea Party walks away with that one. And speaking of those kind of rides, we're going to talk to Dalton here. And Dalton, I need to know, what is better, Dumbo or Aladdin Magic Carpets? Which are exactly the same ride.
I'm seeing that, and also darn you for making me split all kinds of hairs here. I'm just gonna compare the theming, because that's all I really have to go off here. That's all anyone really has to go off here. And I've always liked the idea of going on a magic carpet. So
okay.
Yeah, Aladdin.
Alrighty, Tim, what do you say?
I'm gonna go with Dumbo.
Okay.
I think that both of them, even though they essentially have the same functionality, the idea is that you are supposed to be like on a carpet and riding it, and you're supposed to be riding on Dumbo, but in both cases you're not really riding on either. Yeah. But I think that for some reason in the mind of a child, the simulation of riding on top of an elephant in the case of Dumbo seems to be done better as opposed to riding inside like a carpet, which is what happens in Aladdin. And I think that because Dumbo I think it's gone down in history as probably a more classic attraction, the idea that it's all about a flying elephant, whereas the flying carpet in Aladdin is kind of just a part of the film. I just think it has more classical appeal.
Okay, that stands. How about you, Mark? Where would you stand on this one?
Well, I mean, I've done Dumbo and not the carpets, so obviously I'm going to choose Dumbo. It's also one of those classic rides. So I'm originally from Northern Virginia, right next to Washington, D.C., so we went to the history of the American History of Museum, whatever, the Smithsonian. And one of the original Dumbo compartments was in the museum. So I always felt like Dumbo was a really important part of American history. I mean, for it to be in the Smithsonian, it would kind of have to be. But also the decaying remains of the Michelangelo Ninja Turtle costume is also in the Smithsonian. So who knows what the criteria is. But
that means both of them are important parts of American history.
I do not disagree with you.
All right.
But with the carpet, I have one comment on the carpet ride, and I hate its location in Adventureland. It's like there wasn't supposed to be a ride in that spot, and then they plopped it right down, and it takes up so much space, and it bottlenecks everything there, and it's so impossible on a crowded day to maneuver through Adventureland because of that stupid ride.
The funny thing is I'm next on this one, and I was going to say exactly that. I'm voting Dumbo because somebody needs to get that gosh darn Aladdin attraction out of the freaking way. It bottlenecks people on either side. Oh, look, a spinning camera. I don't care. Get out of my way. Goodness gracious. It is such a bother. And look, the rides are essentially the same. It depends on what theming, like Dalton said. But at least Dumbo gets its entire circus area. They've got 2 of them there. Did we lose Dalton?
Yeah.
We've got 2
of them. We have 2 of them there. So Dumbo is in such a better position. It's got its own circus land. Aladdin, on the other hand, like you said, that was not a place that needed a ride. Definitely not that big. And it's just in the freaking way. They could have put it over where the smoking area is now, and it would be off to the side. No problem. But instead, they put it right in the middle of the walkway. And for that alone, I choose Dumbo over Aladdin. That closes it out. Dumbo wins on that one. Where would you have gone with that, Professor?
I did unseen about everything when I see an elephant fly.
That's politically incorrect. How dare you?
I know, right?
Well, I do have to say Dumbo especially wins now because since they turned it to a Disneyland circus or whatever they call it, I cannot remember. They have added a playground in the queue and they added an extra Dumbo track because it was one of the most popular rides. And now it's especially great to take the kids on because they have the playground while you're waiting in line. And then you're basically called up with a number and you get to go on in.
Okay. Let me grab some comments. Jungle Cruise still remember the attacking hippo 42 years later. That actually scared me as a little kid, by the way. And Leander is saying, what's the best Toy Story ride, Buzz Lightyear or Slinky? I like Slinky myself. You guys been on the Toy Story yet?
Yeah. You mean the ones in the Toy Story Land?
Yeah, but Buzz Lightyear's in Magic Kingdom. Slinky Dog's in the Toy Story Land.
Yeah. I mean, I like them both, but I like the Slinky Dog Dash a whole lot. Actually, a lot.
And
Friend and me.
And Leandra, the second question is what we're here deciding for. All righty, let's move over. Mark, it's your turn. And I another one, two very similar attractions. Two attractions that have been here since the beginning. They actually were the templates to start a theme park. You got the Hall of Presidents and the Carousel of Progress.
Oh my God.
We are knocking out a big dog right now.
It's evil.
Something we love is going to fall here today in the first round. So, and it's going to get that way, guys. If you noticed, I've done the secondary rides. As we go, we're building up to those harder and harder decisions to make. So
before Mark answers, I just want to say that this to me is like choosing to you have to choose to kill one of two twins.
It's only going to get worse from here, sir.
Oh man,
Mark, where do you stand? You're starting.
It's like off. Whichever one I choose, I'm still a communist. Oh man, I wasn't expecting a curveball like that.
Do you want me to go first, Mark? And then,
no, I got it.
You've got your own heart.
I've got this, man. I got this. Just give me a minute. I'm gonna have to go with the Carousel of Progress because it's timeless. No matter who is currently president, it doesn't matter because I will always enjoy the Carousel of Progress. It doesn't change. Sometimes they update the fourth part of the show to be a little more relevant. Usually they don't, so it still feels very 80s
like
right now.
25 years ago.
You know, like virtual reality. I sure smoked those guys. Like another round, Grandma. Later, kid. You know, it still feels like a 1980s version of the future. But Carousel of Progress does have that timeless element. You know, going to the Hall of Presidents when I'll try to keep this apolitical. When you don't agree with the current administration and you have to sit there and watch the robot version of a president you don't like talk. I currently like the current president, and I had a great time sitting there watching the robot president talk while all these people in the audience seethed. A person next to me actually got up and walked out of the theater because I didn't like the current robot president, and that was very satisfying. But if it's someone you don't like and you have to sit there through that, you know, that can be annoying. But I still like the Hall of Presidents. It's not as good as the American Adventure in Epcot. That one swells me with more American pride than Hall of Presidents does. It has that song, right?
Yeah.
But I still like Hall of Presidents, and this is such a narrow margin of victory for Carousel of Progress. It really just comes down to, when the administration changes on the Hall of Presidents and it's not the person you voted for, you probably won't enjoy that show as much, and that's really all it comes down to.
Professor, do you agree or disagree with him?
I have to agree. Every time I go to Magic Kingdom, there's a part of me that screams to go to Carousel of Progress at least once. I cannot help but to love that show. If they ever got rid of that, I would be destroyed.
Okay.
It's just such a classic. And the song is in my head right now.
There's another question. I like a side question. Are you more of a Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow or Now is the Time? Now is the best time of our lives fan?
I didn't know if you were really asking that.
No, go on ahead. Which one would you go with?
There's a Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow.
Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow, shining at the end of every day. Alrighty. I, on the other hand, disagree with you both. The better of these two is the Hall of Presidents, and mainly because of that 45-year-old modern-day segment, this show could be updated and still have a wonderful feeling. Unfortunately, I just don't see it. The other sides, they're really cool, watching the progress and everything. But I think it's become a little bit outdated. And Hall of Presidents, well, yeah, I've never, they had Obama up. I never walked out. I still enjoy the show before it. I love the building. And I just think that there's more meat with the potatoes as far as Hall of Presidents than Carousel of Progress. Of the two of them, you mentioned timelessness. Of the two of them, the one that feels timeless to me is the Hall of Presidents. Now, that being said, Tim, where do you stand?
Oh my gosh. So Mark knows how much I love the Carousel of Progress. I pretty much have all the merchandise that you can get because there's not much, trust me. You have a couple of pins, you have a t-shirt that came out. I know the whole ride by heart, verse by verse, line by line from the intro. I don't even have to watch playthrough anymore. I know both versions of it. The modern version and then Now is the Time version. But I'm going to agree with you, and I would choose the Hall of Presidents. And the reason why is because and it is going to be a little bit political, but with the way that Disney is going right now, where everything is very corporatized, where the effects and the technology is improving, but it seems like the soul is going away, where it's like the modern Imagineers, they just don't understand what made those theme parks so great, which is a genuineness in storytelling. I am amazed that between the American Adventure and the Hall of Presidents, that the two of them have remained intact and have captured kind of what Disney's version of Americana is supposed to be. And I think the thing that shocks me is that I've been on every version of the Hall of Presidents since they've allowed the current president to talk. Yeah. And they've never, I'm going to use a pseudo curse word, they've never bastardized it. Even during Obama's administration, when he was in the Hall of Presidents for 8 years, there was nothing wrong about his speech. The speech he gave was good. It basically was like, I don't know how it's edited. I don't know what process it has to go through, but basically they have to have a version of it, essentially non-offensive, that kind of speaks to all Americans.
Well, they they have what was his name, Paul Dano or not something Dano. It wasn't Paul Dano, but they had him record Abraham Lincoln's voice, and he does these are the ideals of America. But the new president just stands up and does his inauguration speech.
Right.
So they have that recording. So they build the audio animatronic to look like the president, or in Trump's case, to look like Hillary Clinton
with a Honestly, you can't tell from a distance. It's pretty convincing.
Which makes you think those two must have looked alike.
Well, and the thing about it too is that I just have there's a glimmer of faith that in terms of cultural significance, the fact that we can have a Hall of Presidents and an American Adventure still standing and paying tribute, it's like the last bastion of Walt's Americana that's still in place. And so I feel like in terms of a greater landscape of cultural significance, there's no way, well, I say that, but then Mark just contradicted me, which is true. It's very hard to be a person who loves your country and go into that ride and not feel a great swell of patriotism. Like I said, I never found anything wrong about Obama's speech during it, even when Clinton was in there. And I think the thing about it too is that, like I said, same thing with the previous attractions we discussed. There are things that attraction got away with, and I think it's probably because they're just not as popular. I mean, during the last time they had the talk or the speech by Lincoln where he says, like, I know there is a God and he hates injustice and slavery. Like, the attraction that has the word God in it, there isn't any. It's
getting less and less as it goes. Dalton, you get to shoot a beloved attraction right in the head.
Okay.
You gotta break this tie.
I'm going to side with the Hall of Presidents.
Woo! Don't take it personal, but woo!
And here's why. You guys were talking about the Carousel of Progress, and you're right. It has been stuck since about the mid '80s. Whereas the Hall of Presidents is as close as we can get to a living time capsule. And some of the reasons that the people that were in favor of Carousel of Progress gave to dislike Hall of Presidents is actually a reason why I kind of like it. Like, the idea that it is an ever-evolving living time capsule that will, given the modern context, piss people off. And also, the fact that the Trump animatronic is very obviously supposed to be Hillary Clinton, and they had to jury rig the opposite because they were so certain the opposite was going to be the case. That in and of itself is something worth noting and worth having as a testament to this is where our heads were at in this time period. Not to mention, there's a part of me that loves history and likes seeing an approximation of historical figures in there. If I had my way, I would include, the founding fathers, even the ones that weren't presidents in there, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, the ever-evolving nature of the Hall of Presidents and its significance and the fact that it is a living time capsule of both what people thought of historical figures and what people currently think of the people we have now just rockets it up that extra notch for me. So Hall of Presidents. Also, I really love audio animatronics. They're one of my favorite aspects of Disney.
Hall of Presidents lives to see the second round, and we're going to move on to the eighth battle in our little thing here, where we're putting in. It's my turn to start off. Country Bear Jamboree versus PhilharMagic.
Ugh, this one's tough too.
I told you it's going to get harder as we're going, bub. Now, here's the thing. I put these together because they're both musical attractions. And me and Gail, we went to Magic Kingdom recently, and we actually sat through both of these shows. And the funniest thing is, even though I think they need to do the sound better, Country Bears didn't seem dated. PhilharMagic did. I've seen better 3D now, and I think that's the problem. It was such awesome 3D when it first came out, but I've seen it done better. Country Bears, on the other hand, it's still timeless. It still works. The audio animatronics are still such a great time to watch. People still get in the music when they do the Country Bear. Thank God I'm a Country Bear at the end. People are still clapping along and having a good time. I've got to go with Country Bear on this one. Dalton, where do you stand?
This one This one is hard.
Yeah. It's like modern day music. You got actually it's not just modern because it goes all throughout, but because they're both sing along kind of attractions, and they're both really good.
No. PhilharMagic needs an update, so I'm going with Country Bears because it has that classical Disney sort of historical significance factor. That's going to be the determining factor for me.
All right. How about you, Prof?
Between PhilharMagic and Country Bears. Jeez. PhilharMagic really does need an update. But at the same time, and while I do love the Country Bears, PhilharMagic just spreads through so much of Disney. You really get that feeling as you're watching, and it switches from movie to movie. And I think because of that factor, and as you're watching Donald go through all these movies, that's a key part right there. I think it's so special because of that I have to choose PhilharMagic.
All righty. How about you, Mark? Which way do you go on this one?
I mean, Country Bears wasn't really a tough decision for me, even though I like them both. The thing is that this actually really is a good comparison because they both form the same function, and that they're basically, at this point, nobody really cares about either attraction. They're just I don't know what the term in theme park terms is, but they're like a divergent point to get people away from the ticket rides to something to get them crowd control in a way. And they're just a place that's air conditioned to sit down and watch a show where you don't have to wait in line for very long. I enjoy Country Bears more as animatronic. I suppose I like the music in PhilharMagic more because it's, classic Alan Menken Disney tunes kind of stuff. But Country Bears just has that old school. When I think of Disney World, I think of audio animatronics. I don't think of screen-based rides, or screen-based shows. And even though this kind of predates the modern trend of screen-based attractions, it really is just a 3D show. There's so many screen-based attractions now that I kind of just instinctually hate them.
And Universal Studios damn near all.
Yeah, it's just it's all that stuff now. And so even though PhilharMagic is not like that, it doesn't have that classic. When I think of Disney World, I think of Country Bears. So I like Country Bears better, except for the part where they start singing Davy Crockett, and then they blue ball you by going off track, and it's like, oh, right as the rhythm gets going, they kill that song. I hate it every time.
All righty, and parents, you can explain what blue ball means. Cabbage Head is like, woo, Country Bears, and apparently Professor thinks Tim, Dalton, and myself are traitors for wanting the presidency. How is it that we're the traitors when we picked the patriotic ride? All right, that saved you a tiebreaker there, Tim. But which way would you have floated on that one?
I would have gone with Country Bears, and it boils down to charm. It's also the reason why you mentioned screen-based attractions. Yeah. I think it's also the reason why when you look at, let's say, hand-drawn cell animation traditionally versus 3D animation, I think that a lot of us would prefer the former rather than the latter. Not because it takes any more work, but because some people we subconsciously like to see craftsmanship.
There's an uncanny valleyness.
Yes, there's an uncanny valleyness to it. And with the Country Bears, yes, it's dated in the sense, but in a way it fits the theme because the Country Bears, they're dilapidated kind of basically hillbilly stereotypes. So they're as outdated as, let's say, the animatronics that they're using to propel, and in a way there's a great charm to it. And also it's very it's well bundled, it's succinct. You don't have to labor through it. You walk in when you need air conditioning. The show itself is probably less than 6 minutes of a runtime, so you're in and out quickly. So it's very fast, very enjoyable. It serves as a landmark attraction. It's there when you need it. With PhilharMagic, you really have to devote about 15 to 30 minutes of your day to experience it. And like you guys have said, it dates itself very quickly because once you've seen the visual, you already know. Whereas honestly, every time we go on the Country Bears attraction, I always giggle, especially whenever they have like Big Al appear and he starts singing "Blood in the Wind." It's gonna be funny to me.
Yep. All righty. You know what? Keep talking, Tim, because I need to know where you stand as far as Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger and the Prince Charming Carousel, or as other people call it, Cinderella's.
Oh my gosh. For this one, I'm going to have to go with Buzz Lightyear.
Alrighty.
I feel really bad. This is where I think Dalton and I would have like a very long debate about it. It's the question of an objectively good ride versus nostalgia or historicity. The historicity of the Prince Charming Carousel is there. It is a beautiful attraction. There's so much behind it. But if I'm looking at just the objective nature of how good of a ride is, Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin was innovative on many different levels. One, you had the kind of, at the time, the cutting edge use of the Buzz Lightyear animatronic figure where they had the screen-based face. They need to update that because it's losing its luster. But
yeah, it's fading, actually. I remember when I first saw it, I was like, how are they doing this?
It was amazing when we first saw it. But the idea of having a dark combined with a new element, which is the interactive portion where you're shooting. Obviously, a lot of people have learned since then. Disney has already kind of copied that with the Midway Mania attraction in Hollywood Studios. So it's already kind of become its own classic in a way. I think just in terms of enjoyability, assuming that you're not going to wait in a line, that's a great ride to be on. There's nothing I think that's wrong with it per se, but that's why I choose that over the carousel.
Okay. Now, he mentioned a debate. So, Dalton, why don't you jump into the debate?
Actually, in this, I can see where he thought that I might be on the other side of this, but in this particular instance, I think we're on the same side, Tim. That's not to say we're not going to be at cross purposes elsewhere, but in this instance, I have to agree with most of what Tim said because let's be honest. As much as we may love Prince Charming's Carousel, every amusement park in the nation and elsewhere has a carousel. It's been done. It's one of those. It's one of those attractions that is so easy to reproduce, and even like some playgrounds will have them if it's a fairly upscale playground. Whereas there's such a technical aspect to the other attraction, and there's such a uniqueness and a cutting edgeness to it that I think it stands on its own. And like Tim said, they already have started replicating it, so it can't be a terribly bad ride concept. So yeah, not disagreeing with him on this point. Not saying I don't withhold the right to do so later, but not on this one.
That being said, though, do you agree or disagree, Mark?
I mean, the Prince Charming Carousel is just a carousel. It's like everybody said. Every carnival and amusement ride has a carousel. It's like those rides where you go to like the local carny that builds up overnight and leaves by Sunday morning. They have like those rides with the swings that go around in circles. It's just such a generic ride. I understand that it's kind of grandfathered in because it's like a classic Disney ride, but it's not special. The teacups are special. Dumbo is special. The carousel, not really. So, I mean, I prefer the Buzz Lightyear ride, but even the Buzz. So my answer is the Buzz Lightyear ride, but I don't really care for that ride because there's so many examples of that form done better. Like Tim mentioned, the Midway Mania over at Hollywood Studios is that ride, but better. But even better, Men in Black is where I was going next. That is Midway Mania, but better. Men in Black is the apex of those light gun rides. You got animatronic monsters that you got to shoot. You've got different endings you can get depending on how well you do. That is the number one best version. I can't think of anyone who can outdo the light gun rides. Yes. So when in that hierarchy, Buzz Lightyear is really at the bottom of that. But it's still better than the freaking carousel. So, yeah.
Gotcha. All righty, so we got to go to Professor. It's your time to start us off, and I want to know: would you prefer to go to Neverland, or would you prefer to go deep in the 100-acre wood? Winnie the Pooh versus Peter Pan's Flight. What do you choose, Prof?
Ooh.
You suck.
I have to choose Peter Pan, just because of how classic it is.
Okay.
I have to choose Peter Pan. They are very well. It's two different experiences because one, you are basically flying above, while the other, you're going right around and you're hopping around with Tigger in the 100-acre woods and then floating along. But I still, just because of how classic it is, I have to choose Peter Pan.
All righty. Mark, what do you say?
God. Peter Pan it's a fun ride. I did it when I was 6. It was a lot easier to do when I was 6. Now that I'm an adult, it's like, holy crap, you got to make a reservation to get in that ride if you don't want to wait 3 hours. Why is that one classic attraction like always booked solid? I don't get it. It's fun. I like that you're flying over things in your pirate ship and stuff. Like that's unique. What was the other choice?
Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh.
Oh, okay. Well, I like it more than Winnie the Pooh, so I guess Peter Pan wins. Winnie the Pooh is okay. Winnie the Pooh. Which one did Winnie the Pooh replace? Snow White or Mr. Toad? Mr. Toad. Okay, I did Mr. Toad when I was a kid. I did both of them when I was a kid. But I did Mr. Toad when I was a kid. And Mr. Toad was more fun, and Winnie the Pooh is not a better version of that. So I kind of resent Winnie the Pooh for that reason. So I guess Peter Pan wins. I just don't understand why the line's so long.
Well, I've got to say that's the reason I'm going with Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, because even though Winnie the Pooh can have a long line, it doesn't seem to be as horribly bad as Peter Pan. I think Fast Pass completely destroyed Peter Pan just for that reason alone. It's for what I've got two of you here, Dalton. Hello, Dalton?
Yeah.
He's flat.
There's two Daltons, and neither we
Dalton.
We got to shoot one of them. Shoot both of us. It's the only way.
Okay.
Anyway.
I missed part of that because my internet's being very slow and
Okay,
it's
well,
not
we're just
letting
sitting
me
there.
hear.
I'm answering, but I'll give you a chance to answer in just a little bit. It's the I love what they did with the new queue. The fact that they made a house to people go through so they're not always out in the outside. The line is just way too long. The ride is about 45 seconds. And for as much as I loved it as a kid, the line killed it for me. And also, I don't know what it is, but they need to revamp the audio in there. Because every time I've been, as a Stubbins me. What are you saying? Stubbins me. Oh, help me.
Oh, not
are
to
you
interrupt
saying?
you,
Are
but
they
I do
saying
want to
anything?
say that
I can't hear them. Yeah.
That's one thing I do. I don't want to like break into your thing, but that is one thing that Peter Pan is the guy that did the original dialogue for Captain Hook in that ride. It wasn't Hans Conrad who did it in the cartoon. And it's not Corey Burton who does it now. The guy who did it in the ride sucks. I don't care if he did it in the 70s. He just doesn't sound like Captain Hook. They really need to re-record it with Corey Burton doing a better Hans Conrad impression.
And in stereo would be good. Yeah. So I'm going to go Mini Adventures. Let's go on over to Tim, though. Tim, where do you stand? Peter Pan versus Mini Adventures of Winnie the Pooh.
I would choose Peter Pan. And this is a narrow one. I completely agree with you. But I think what it really boils down to is just the novelty of a hanging dark ride. That is unique. That is something that in the Disney parks, with the exception of the other Peter Pan attractions, has not been repeated. I mean, that being said, I do think it needs an overhaul, especially the one in the Magic Kingdom and Disney World. The animatronics are kind of outdated. The audio is poor. I think they're getting there. The queue line is fantastic. And so there is kind of this disjointedness because the queue line is very modern, whereas the attraction is very dated. but I think the hanging nature of it gives it a uniqueness that, frankly, with the many adventures of Winnie the Pooh, besides the bouncing effect, it is essentially just a dark ride that you can find replicated in other theme parks.
Okay. Where would you have stood, Dalton?
This one's hard because I think I agree with everybody that Peter Pan's flight needs a overhaul, especially they need to essentially do with it what they did with Haunted Mansion in about 2006 and utilize the advancements of technology to make it a better experience, which they could easily do.
That makes sense.
But also, I didn't do the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, so I can't really compare it to anything.
Well, how about this one? Have you ever ridden on the Jungle Cruise?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Have you ever ridden on the Wedway People Mover?
Yes, I have.
Which one would you choose out of those two attractions to be the better one?
You son of a word I can't say. You can fly with your rules. You absolute
we're shooting another beloved attraction in the head right here.
Gosh.
I will get you for this. I'm weighing pros and cons in my head.
Oh, really? Should I move on to someone else?
No. Just give me.
Okay.
I'm gonna feel bad no matter which way I slice this. So
I'm number 4 on this particular list, so I'm wondering if I'm gonna get a chance to argue my point on this.
Okay, I think that overall, Jungle Cruise is a more interesting experience, and yet on the other hand, the People Mover honestly could easily be like the monorail or the train in the sense that it should just be a way to get around the park. The fact that they haven't yet utilized that potential really bothers me. But I'm gonna say Jungle Cruise just because I think it's a more immersive and more complicated experience. And I'm going to curse Eglantine for making me make this decision because I really love the People Mover too.
It's Sophie's choice. It's not even it's not going to be the hardest ones that we have to make, to tell you the truth.
I know, that's why I'm like, you are going to make me do this like 3 more times, aren't you?
Tim, where do you stand?
Either way, we lose on this one. I'm going to go against my better judgment and choose the Wedway People Mover.
Oh.
Yeah, and the reason why is because in Disneyland, their version of it has not been operational in years. So it does have a uniqueness to it in that it's a very fast mode of transportation around Tomorrowland. It's a nice breeze. It's very quick. Back in the day, we used to be able to just go on it whenever we felt like it. There was never a line for it, and they let us stay on it for as long as we wanted, which was really cool. I don't think they let you do that anymore. What I don't like about the Jungle Cruise is, don't get me wrong, it can be amusing. You're pretty much outdoors all the time. So if you're outdoors in a sweltering hot queue, you're going to be in a boat, in a sweltering hot boat. And your mileage will vary based on your really good at or not. But most of the time, I don't know if Mark will agree with me on this or not, it's typically very cringy. I'm just thinking, I'm just groaning because I'm like, this delivery. Like, no, I'm not blaming the skipper. I think that they're given a list of patter to say, a script. And it just doesn't come across as well. It always, to me, it feels like the jokes were an afterthought to the attraction. And the attraction itself, animatronically, is just not as impressive to me. So I think that the Wedway People Mover, to me, that's the attraction we always do. The Jungle Cruise, we kind of do it if we feel like we have the time. If not, no harm, no foul.
Professor.
That's my name.
Where do you stand? Jungle Cruise, tomorrow, the Tomorrowland Speed. Well, no, not the Tomorrowland Speedway. The Wedway People Mover. Where do you stand?
I do really love the People Mover, and I especially love that one moment whenever you're going down a dark tunnel and you see on the left-hand side the model for what Epcot was supposed to be.
Yeah.
But other than that, the People Mover is not a mode of transportation. You sit there and go in a circle, and it accomplishes really nothing. It tells you about some of the rides in the area, but other than that, it's really, you could completely do without it. Whereas Jungle Cruise is a classic ride, and while the jokes are really corny, it is an experience that is classic. It's something that you know that whenever you're getting on there, you know what you're getting, but you enjoy it every single time. And that's why I'm choosing Jungle Cruise.
Alrighty, now I gotta go with the People Mover. And this is a ride I ride all the time. The line is short, to what Tim was saying. The line is short. If you are stuck in the Jungle Cruise line, it doesn't matter what they're saying. And if you're stuck in that long line and then you get a bad skipper, to me, the ride depends on that skipper. Because like you said, the jokes are bad, but they could be funny in the right hands. And if you don't have that, it falls flat and the whole ride could be boring. The People Mover is exactly what it's meant to be. You get in, you can rest your feet. It's an interesting look at the park. It's an interesting look at the others. Like you said, the model, you go through Space Mountain, you get some great scenery. I've never not enjoyed my ride on the Tomorrowland, the People Mover. I absolutely love this ride. It might be one of my favorite rides in the park, as a matter of fact, which means, Mark, you get to break this tie.
People Mover.
Take your time. Think about it.
Yeah, right? I mean, so that's the thing, is that both the People Mover and the Jungle Cruise is that they're both rides that don't change. And I feel like the People Mover has an excuse not to change. Maybe if they add a new ride, they'll add a little update to the narration. Jungle Cruise doesn't have an excuse. They can write new jokes. They just don't. So it's like 2015, the backside of water. 2016, the backside of water. 2017, the backside of water.
That's the one I would never change.
Of it. They could add new jokes, but they don't. And that's the thing, is that the People Mover doesn't change, but at least you don't have to wait half an hour to 2 hours to get into the People Mover. It's always circulating, and it is a ride. It's not the train. It's not a form of transportation. You get on the People Mover, you go around the circuit, you come back, and it gives you a sampler of all the different rides you can do. It's that joke from Tiny Toons I talked about. But at least you don't have to wait long to do that. Jungle Cruise, you do that once, and it's like if you do it a second time, you realize it's the same jokes ad infinitum. And even though it has animatronics, you know, I've seen footage of what the Jungle Cruise used to be, and I feel ripped off because, like, the Jungle Cruise used to have the skipper with a cap gun who would shoot the hippo or things. Like, they don't do that anymore.
No, because they don't want to traumatize people.
Yeah, it's like we've got a watered-down version of the ride now. It's not as good as it used to be, and it doesn't change up the jokes enough unless it's like the holiday like overlay. And yeah, I prefer the People Mover because you don't have to wait as long.
Yeah. So there you go.
I want to mention something that just occurred to me that I don't think any of us have thought about, but the People Mover is also the only attraction in all the parks where it's an attraction, and it's the only one where you actually have privacy. Now, what I mean by that is that when you're on a ride, like let's say Midway Mania, you're in a car with like your family members, but you're busy doing something. You can actually take a breather, like when you're on the People Mover. Yeah. And I think that when you're on it, it's like you have a time to reflect and be like, we're here. Like,
that's what me and my wife use it for. We kick back. We never sit side by side. We're always like one across from each other. So we might actually, we can look at each other. We have a talk, and both of us have our feet up.
Yeah.
I still have to say it's a waste of a good mode of transportation.
I agree with you. Why did we have the freaking hanging things when they've literally got a People Mover technology that they could have moved all? Yeah, I completely agree with you. They should have built a People Mover from hotel to hotel and all that kind of stuff. That is, I 100% agree with you. That being said, I need Mark to continue talking and tell us which one is better and more fun, either Pirates of the Caribbean or It's a Small World. Both boat rides.
Oh, God, man. Pirates of the Caribbean. I mean, it's a small world. I did both of them as a kid, and obviously when I was 6, I loved Pirates so much more. In fact, when it emptied at the gift shop, the first thing I wanted was a plastic cutlass. You know, everybody's got to have the plastic cutlass when they leave that ride. I didn't care about Pirates, but I wanted that when I got out of the ride. It makes you so hyped for Pirates that you got to do that.
Adult now, and you can get it.
Yeah, right. So no, Pirates is great actually, and I don't mind the Johnny Depp refreshes that they've done to it to try and align it more with the movies. And I know that's sacrilege to a lot of people. I kind of like that they've given it a narrative through line, because the Disneyland version has a better narrative because it has that prologue segment on the bayou where the guy's talking about the pirates, and then you see that transition where it turns into a flashback. But the Magic Kingdom version doesn't have that. It doesn't really have it. The original version didn't really have a storyline, so adding the movie stuff gives it a bit of a better thread. So I don't mind that stuff at all. It's different from the version I saw as a kid, but it's not bad. I like Pirates so much better. And It's a Small World I like that it has not changed at all in 60 years or however many years, but I also hate that it hasn't changed at all in 60 years. You ride that thing once, and my memories of It's a Small World is every time we get off It's a Small World, we go to the Pinocchio cafeteria, and I get a chicken parmesan, and we sit by that window and watch all these boats going into that ride, and we can see the kids so excited, and we can see the parents just groaning like, "Oh God, this again." And that's my memory of It's a Small World, but I prefer Pirates.
All righty. So we're at least going to have 4 people talk about this, because I'm choosing It's a Small World. Now, you mentioned, and by the way, I'm going to once again say my childhood was better than yours. Every time I went on this as a kid too and loved it. This was my favorite ride for the longest time. And every time I came out of it, I wanted a musket.
Oh, a musket. Oh, okay. Swords versus guns. All right.
So you couldn't have that because of PC. Now, here's another thing. When I was a kid, the pirate would chase the lady. Woo, the pirate chased the lady. Pirate would chase the lady. And look, the lady, she's chasing the pirate. It's so funny. But they changed that because of PC. And then when I was a kid, have you seen the girlie? I've got her knickers. Ha, ha, ha. But no, they changed that because of PC. And now they don't want the redhead no more. The redhead is selling chickens to the freaking pirates. Why are the pirates bothering to buy the chickens instead of not freaking stealing them? It doesn't make sense. They have PC'd the hell out of pirates to the point where I'm okay. All right, I'm done. Yes, my childhood was better than yours. I had the.
I will say that when I did that ride at age 6, they did have the pirates chasing the women, and they did have the female auction. The only thing that's changed since when I went on as a kid is they changed. They added Johnny Depp, and they changed the auction scene. Yeah, and I do hate the new auction scene, but. Yeah, I will agree with you on that.
So they have watered down the pirates to the point where I'll go through it. I like it, but more times than not, I'm lamenting what used to be rather than enjoying it. Now, here's the thing. I took my mom out to Disney. I got her a pass to get her some exercise. It's the most wonderful thing. I love going out with her. And one night we riding this. This is the last time I've been on Small World. And I saw so many things I hadn't noticed. And I just marveled at the detail. It's a beautiful ride. It's a lot of fun. I actually like that. And the song doesn't bother me at all. And yes, of course, the food at the Pinocchio Village does bother me. But the Small World attraction, to me, that is timeless. And so I'm going to pick that because it hasn't been changed yet for any PC reasons. All righty. But that means, let's see, who's next? Oh, that means Dalton. Where are you going? Do you like Pirates versus Small World?
I I'm gonna have to go with Pirates, but I actually have kind of a sad story about Pirates because when I went to Disney, Pirates was closed.
What?
So I never got to go on Pirates.
Come on down.
But that being said, I will still go with Pirates because the PC cosmetic changes aside, Pirates is probably still the best like action ride that Disney has. It's not like a coaster. And that being as it may, it also inspired the best possible ride-based series of movies ever that had no right being as good as they were up until the last one, but that's neither here nor there.
I like I like the original trilogy. The other two, All righty, so Tim, bring us home.
I'm gonna go with Pirates.
I knew that was a losing battle, but
well, I was trying to go with your mentality in terms of how you decide on comparing the two. They're both boat rides. They're both slow moving, and they both have their qualities in that they're visual feasts. Every time you ride it, you're going to notice something new that you didn't notice before. For example, this I think it was 2 years ago when we were on it. I've ridden this thing several times. I never noticed on It's a Small World that there's a guy literally choking a chicken, and I just had like a juvenile laugh when I saw that because I was like, that's pretty funny.
Okay, where is the choking chicken scene? I need to.
It's on the right side of the boat. And I forget. I think it's when you're going through South America.
Okay.
But you can't miss it. It's a chicken with a telescoping neck, like on an accordion. And it's just like bouncing up and down.
This has got to be checked out here. All right. So Pirates. Say again.
Well, so you have these little things that you notice, but what Pirates has done, I think, is Pirates is honestly, even though it has those PC elements that I don't like, it's changed with the times in terms of keeping up with itself. And I think that it's still a remarkable feat that I think tonally, even though they do have like the new auction scene with the redhead, I think overall the attraction's theming has remained intact. Whereas I think It's a Small World, it's a 50-50 in terms of people who love and hate it. I like both. I'm like you. I'm not annoyed by the music. I like anything wholesome, anything that's innocent, anything that's well-meaning and genuine. So that has nothing to do with it. But the reality is that some people really don't like that ride. Whereas I think everyone who goes on Pirates, you might have like a quibble here and there, but overall, I think there's a high satisfaction with the attraction once you get out of it.
Pirates grabs onto that part of every young boy, whether you're actually of boy age or whether you're an adult, that part of you that desperately wants to be that piratical figure of just no rules and doing whatever you want and sailing the high seas and adventure and yo-ho and so forth.
I get it. You like watching pirates grab young boys. Gotcha. Professor, where would you take this?
I would have gone with you, man. I have to agree. I was lucky enough to grow up where I still remember the classic ride before they added all the changes. And I've been on every version of the ride here in Orlando. So unless they had one in the 80s, I wasn't around then. But I've been on every version other than that span of time. And I have to say, none of the additions have been as good, except possibly the Skeleton Mermaid, but they got rid of that, so it doesn't matter. Yeah. Small World is the same. It is classic. It is something that the reason why it never gets updated, because it doesn't need to be. Exactly. It is something permanent.
What we're saying is you guys are wrong. That makes sense. Apparently, now I didn't plan this. I just started and did this. It looks like I wanted to give you guys the hard decisions, and I don't see this being a hard decision. And I'm going to start us off because it's between Haunted Mansion and Journey of the Little Mermaid. I love Journey of the Little Mermaid. I think it's a great time. It's a classic ride in the fact that it is a boat ride. You know, it's a dark ride that takes you through the movie. It's got some great animatronics, except for the dead ass eyes on Ariel. I did a video about this because I did a ride through and I videotaped it, and I noticed Ariel's eyes are literally this. And it's through the thing they're going under the sea, and her eyes are just like. And so I literally called the video "The Dead Eyes of Ariel." Please help her. She's stuck. She's constantly dancing. It's a horrible dance party. Beautiful ride. Highly recommend it to everybody, but it's no Haunted Mansion. Haunted Mansion, you want to talk about classic. I mean, I love the ambience. I love the audio animatronics. I love the coloring of the audio animatronics in the graveyard. The special effects in the dining hall, the hidden Mickey, the hidden Donald. For the longest time, I didn't know that was a movie projected on face onto the doll at the end. Hurry back. They updated it with the mirror effects. This is an amazing ride. You know what? I like I said, I don't think this is a hard choice. That being said, Mark, I'm going to ask you to make that difficult decision. Haunted Mansion or Little Mermaid?
Oh, God, Haunted Mansion, man. I mean, Little Mermaid, I don't have much to say about that one. I think the animatronic, I guess, on Ariel is kind of neat at the end. Most of that ride is cardboard cutouts rocking left and right. It's really not very impressive of a ride. Haunted Mansion, though, is my jam, obviously. I love that. It's my favorite ride. I try to do it at least twice every time we go. I love it that much. I love that it has a narrative, but it's really subtle. You're going into this mansion that has 999 ghosts, and it needs one more. You start out the ride, and the ghosts are all really scary and intimidating. And there's this specter, this raven that's following you around with glowing red eyes. And then when you fall out of the balcony, and you die, quote unquote, you see the caretaker looking at you with fear. You realize you're the 1,000th ghost, but suddenly all the ghosts around you are fun. They're having a jamboree. It's a great time. And you realize being dead's not so bad. It incorporates you into the story that in a way that no other ride at Disney World, Disneyland does. And it does it so subtly, you may not even realize that there is a narrative to that ride. It's fantastic. And I like most of the updates they do to it. When they replaced those rubber spiders with the endless staircase, that was a fantastic update.
I love that.
It looks great with those with those footsteps that appear and disappear across the MC Escher stairs. Like, that's such a cool effect.
Crazy stairs.
I don't like what they did with the Ghost Bride in the attic. I think they overdid her. I thought she was scarier when she was just this silent specter with a black face holding out her skeletal hand. They turned her into this projected animatronic who says quips she's holding an axe and she'll say things like "I did, but he died" or something like that. I think that's overdoing it. It was scarier when it was just a spooky thing. Too, but overall, it's such a good ride. It's absolutely my favorite ride in the park. So no contest, Haunted Mansion.
All right, Professor, are you going to be the knight that Little Mermaid needs? Are you going to be her Prince Eric here, or are you going to choose the Haunted Mansion?
If we're trying to decide which ride is scarier, I mean, if you look at Ariel, she is terrifying every time.
Under the sea, under the sea. Yeah.
Aside from that that might be the worst animatronic.
Except for Ursula with her head off. Did you see that video when the head fell off?
I didn't see that. But that Ursula animatronic is fantastic.
It really is a great work.
But that aside, Haunted Mansion, there's no contest. Haunted Mansion is a classic. It has fantastic animatronics. There's no point in me going on.
Okay, so that's the hat trick right there. Dalton, Tim, would you guys have gone off into the Little Mermaid land, or are you stuck in the Haunted Mansion with us?
Haunted Mansion for sure, and I'll just agree with everything that everyone said. With one addition to that, so Little Mermaid. Let's say from here on out, Little Mermaid, they update it, they make the attraction really, really good in terms of upgrading the effects and stuff. There's gonna be one thing that the Haunted Mansion will always have over the theming of Little Mermaid, which is It was an original IP, unique to the park, that made people want to go to the park to ride it. And it kind of showed that if you have good storytelling in your theme park attraction, that's all it takes. And I've noticed in a lot of Disney blog videos that a common thing that people have been saying is that there is such a lack of creativity in the corporatized Disney Imagineering that they don't want to make new IP rides. And I think
look what they're doing to Epcot.
Exactly. And so I think the Haunted Mansion has to stand along with like Pirates of the Caribbean and the Jungle Cruise to some extent, simply because it proves that you could do it and you can have it actually stand a test of time.
Yep. Dalton, I take it you're a Haunted Mansion person too, huh?
Haunted Mansion was and is my favorite ride when we went to Disney. So you will get no arguments from me. I think a lot like Mark, I was the kind of kid that loved like Tim Burton and Dark Crystal and all the weird, trippy, quote unquote kids movies, and I was the kind of kid that liked like Courage the Cowardly Dog and Invader Zim, and also I was a kid who was weird and collected antiques from about the time he was 6 years old on up. So yeah, Haunted Mansion really just hit every button that it could possibly hit with me. It's got the weird supernatural stuff going on. It's got the old grand Victorian mansion that I swear to God I will live in one someday. Like every aspect of Haunted Mansion just works, and it's perfect. It is the perfect attraction, and I love it. So
I'm not gonna lie to you guys. The next two battles, if you've noticed, we are now in the War of the Mountains. And Tim, you're gonna start us off and tell us which mountain would you prefer to climb? I guess one's underneath. But would you prefer to go beneath the mountain into Seven Dwarfs Mine Train? Or let's go on over to the other one and say Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. Which one would you prefer to traverse?
Another tough one, another very good pairing, but I'm going to choose Snow White, the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. Reason why is that I love Big Thunder Mountain. It's probably my favorite, second favorite besides Splash Mountain. But the problem with Big Thunder Mountain is there is no story to it. Now, if you look at the lore, like if you go online, there is kind of a backstory.
Yeah.
It's pieced together.
They even have a comic book to it, dude.
Yes, there's even a comic book to it. But the thing is that what makes Disney park attractions so unique is that you can combine a good ride with a good story. When you go into Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, it's basically like a light version of Big Thunder Mountain. And I say that in terms of its duration, but it does have its twists and turns, no pun intended. It does do some really cool things in terms of its ride mechanism, but it tells basically a segment of the story of Snow White. And you have animatronic figures, so it kind of does the Splash Mountain thing where you have a kind of song and dance going on with them. It uses the modern projection system, and it looks great. There's no fading because the dwarves are in a cave, so their luminescence is actually pretty good for that environment. And it's just such a satisfying ride. There's no wonder why year after year, that's the hardest attraction for us to get into. The fast passes are always out months in advance. I mean, from the day that tickets are open, it's really hard to get on that ride.
Even now,
I have to go with that one.
Even now in COVID land, it's a 45-minute wait.
Well, it's better than 3 hours, which is what it's been every time we go.
Let's see. Mark, where do you stand on this one?
I mean, I'm going to have to go with Big Thunder Mountain only because I can get into Big Thunder Mountain. I think I've done Snow White twice, and I haven't done it in 3 years, so I really don't remember it very well. I mean, Big Thunder Mountain I can do reliably every year, and I have lots of fond memories, but Snow White, it's like no matter how early you try to get those fast passes, it's never early enough. You can never get that stupid ride. And I don't know. I like Big Thunder Mountain. Like Tim says, the problem is that the ride itself does have a hard time of incorporating its lore and its storyline. I can't remember if you ride the train or the Dixie boat, but one of them mentions that Big Thunder Mountain is haunted, but the ride itself doesn't mention that. And I remember being like surprised. you never would have realized that unless you rode like the train or the Dixie boat, whichever it was, that mentions that. So the ride just doesn't kind of make its own story apparent, but it's still a more fun ride. I love putting my arms up, when you go through the dinosaur bones. It's a very fun ride. Snow White, it's been so long since I rode it. It's so hard to get into the backlit animatronics when you go to the Diamond Mine. I do remember that. It's really cool. And I know the house at the end where you can see Snow White dancing with the dwarves at the end is really cool. But it's like, maybe if I could ride it some more times, I'll have a better opinion of it. But until the line goes down, from 5 hours to something reasonable, it's Big Thunder Mountain all the way.
Okay. Yeah, I know, right? He's our Tiki birds. Just Gail came home, so he's being loud. Let me out, that kind of thing. This is a tough decision because there's so much to like about Snow White. Like you said, the audio animatronics. It does tell us a bit better of a story. I never sit in front of Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. I request the back. So to me, that's the better roller coaster. It's just longer. It's more for grown-ups. Although it's not one that's going to make you sick and all that kind of stuff. So I've got to go with Big Thunder. It is, in fact, the wildest ride in the wilderness. And in spite of it not having the story to tell, I do have to go for it. It's a better ride to me. Tim, how about you? Where do you stand?
I already said.
Oh, you did already. You started us off. Mark, me. Okay, we're all different. Professor.
I'm still mad about them getting rid of the original Snow White ride. So
what? You're doing a vengeful vote. Okay,
but at the same time, you're right. Big Thunder Mountain is a better roller coaster. It just is between the two, and honestly, one of my favorite parts is when you're going by I think it's a saloon, and you're going up, down, underneath the hanging. Well, I don't know if they're still there. I think they took them down. The hanging opossums. And you hear the gunshots coming out from the saloon. That part right there is just.
Yeah.
I think overall, Big Thunder Mountain is the best. The better.
All right. Cool. There you go. So Big Thunder wins that one. Now, Dalton, you're not a roller coaster guy, but do you have a preference?
You're right. In that I'm not a coaster guy, I can't really judge on those terms. But if I had to have a preference, I think I'd go with the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, because I like attractions where you can like put yourself in the movie, and Seven Dwarfs Mine Train really, I think, helps with that, in the sense of you can put yourself in the mine scene of the movie and so on, and sort of experience the story along with it. So hi-ho.
On the other hand, there's an argument to be made about Mark's original IP thing. All righty, which brings us to the last battle of the evening. And Professor, you're going to start us off, and this is not an easy one to do. Space Mountain versus Splash Mountain.
I wish it were harder to say this.
I'm out.
I wish it were harder to say this, because I do love Splash Mountain. But I have to say Space Mountain. Space Mountain is the better of the two mountains.
What?
I feel like as it's Big Thunder Mountain is a good roller coaster, but in comparison, Space Mountain is the best thrill ride in Magic Kingdom.
Okay.
Wait, are you comparing Big Thunder Mountain or Splash Mountain?
Splash Mountain and Space Mountain are the two we're going for. So you're saying that you're going Space Mountain because it's the best thrill ride. Okay.
Yes.
I, on the other hand, would go the other direction. I'm going with Splash Mountain because to me, Splash Mountain is everything Disney had learned up to the point and even beyond. It's got great audio animatronics. It does have the thrills. It is a dark ride and a thrill ride put together in just the most excellent of ways. It's great for a hot day, so long as you're wearing shorts and flip-flops. If you're wearing jeans, get off that ride. You're not going to enjoy it afterwards. But also, it's 20 minutes long. So even if the line is long, you're getting your ride value. And I love it, every bit of it. I love the songs. I love the voices. I love the stories in it. It's an amazing ride, and it should stay that way. I'm sorry, Twitter's not the real world. Stop falling for it, people. But Splash Mountain is an incredible ride that now is the only representation of a movie that otherwise nobody would ever hear about, much less see. Tim, how about you?
Everything that you said, I agree. Splash Mountain all the way. So there's only a handful of attractions in Disney World as a whole that I consider perfect in terms of how meticulous it is, how finely crafted it is to what it is that it's trying to simulate. I would actually put at the top of that list, it's from a park that we're not discussing tonight. In my opinion, I think the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror is like the ultimate in terms of that blend where you have an attraction that represents a hotel. I mean, like as a kid, I used to look at that and actually think this is a place you could stay in. Like maybe you could win a lottery and stay in the Hollywood Tower Hotel overnight. That would be so cool. That's how much I looked at that attraction and thought it really was what it claimed to be. Splash Mountain is that to that extent because it's based upon, it's a log flume ride. You go into a mountain. There's a briar patch. It's the dark ride, the water ride combined. It has the element of fear in it, so you get a little bit of the horror element to it. It's whimsical, it's wholesome. There's a bevy of animatronic characters to go through. It never occurred to me, but you're right. It's the bang for your buck attraction because it's a 15-minute ride, which on paper sounds ridiculous, but the time goes by so quickly.
Oh yeah, it's a great story. So it's a great story with thrills. So it's like, you do not feel the time you're riding through it unless you're my wife who just worries about the drop, so she doesn't really see it. And that's why you need to go on it again, honey.
Well, and at least once. What I like about it is I'm not a drop person, which is ironic because I like the Tower of Terror. But I think what's interesting about it is they kind of prep you for it because you're probably thinking to yourself, if you've never ridden it before, oh, it's just an attraction where there's that huge log flume drop at the end. But it's not. There's 3 smaller drops before it. So it's like they prepare you for that larger one. So even from a thematic standpoint, it's like, no, we're not going to give them the big drop. Let's give them a few tastes.
The one that gets me is the one that goes, woo!
And then it kind of leaps at the end.
In the dark. And okay, that was a roller coaster.
Yeah, and I think that, so Mark was making fun of me before with Space Mountain. There's 2 reasons why I don't like that ride. One, I'm like Dalton. I'm not a big roller coaster fan, but I think that the thing that is scary about Space Mountain is the fact that there's no lights and it's completely in the dark.
I love that part about it.
However, I also consider that to be a cheat because there is no real theming to Space Mountain either. No, it's just basically like, hey, it's a science fiction themed ride in the dark.
I hear one in California. I hear that one does it a lot better. But,
that's what I hear too.
Yeah, I haven't been there. I've never been to Disneyland. So I know you guys are closer. So maybe one day if Gail and I make it over there, you guys can be the tour guides for that one. Now, Dalton, once again, you're not a roller coaster guy, so I'm going to go to Mark on this one, if that's okay.
Sure.
Well, if you want, I can still weigh in because
I'm going to go to Mark, and if he's got a type.
Let Dalton weigh in.
Okay.
It's good.
Go ahead, Dalton.
Okay. So funny thing, even though I'm not really a thrilling ride guy, my one exception to that rule is water rides, funnily enough. I absolutely adore water rides. I don't know what it is about them, but like log flumes, anything where there's a big build up and then a splash, I'm having fun. And what's more, I like rides that are longer. My thinking is, if you're standing in the line for an hour or 2 or even 40 minutes, then you should get something on par with or equivalent to that in terms of your amusement and so forth, because it's an amusement park and so on. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Splash Mountain.
Alrighty, there you go. Where would you have gone on that one, Mark?
Well, this one comes down to a decision between objectivity versus subjectivity. So, I mean, my subjective answer would have been Space Mountain because I have so many good memories from when I was 6 and I went to see it. It was the only ride we did twice, and I remember riding it, and I was so excited because I had watched the documentary on the Disney Channel, and they had showed that ride. And I think they like spliced the ride with footage from the black hole to make it look more impressive. I was so excited, and I loved that ride so much. And I remember the second time I rode it, my mom, who had back problems, she said that ride actually fixed her back, and that her back that had been hurting all day at the ride felt better after it. You know, where most people say their back feels worse after riding that rickety ride. It made her feel better. But objectively, and this is my choice, Splash Mountain is the better ride because it's, like Tim mentioned, it's, aside from maybe Twilight Zone, it's the only thrill ride that also merges a theming storyline ride. And it's so unique, at least at Magic Kingdom, in that aspect, in that you're going through this ride, you're going through the Song of the South with Brer Rabbit and Brer Fox and Brer Bear. You're going through the storyline, and they're gradually winding up this mountain. And you go through these. I love how they do these fake outs with these fake drops where they're building up to the happy place. And they put you down these fake drops where you think that's, oh, is this the happy place? But it's not. And they're like, oh, you'll know the happy place when you get there. And it's building you up to this. And there's so much anticipation until you get to that big drop where you go into the briar patch. And it's so thrilling and it's so satisfying. And it's just so well done. It's one of the best pieces. It's one of the best rides in the park, honestly. And so I can't compete with my nostalgia for Space Mountain. Splash Mountain wins.
Oh, by the way, if you're going on Space Mountain and they've got both tracks open, go to the left if you don't want to do the shaking as much. Or wait, no. Yeah, go to the right. Go to the right. No, go to the right. Yeah.
Oh, my spine.
Yeah, the right was a lot smoother. One night I went on an annual pass holder night where it's like they close it off except for annual pass holders. So I was able to ride it twice in a row. And I was like, I wanted to know, was there really a difference? So I rode the left one. It was, and then I rode the other one. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah, this is a lot more fun. Woo. All right. Yeah. Except for I felt sick after that. So, all righty. And Professor saying goodbye to Space Mountain, my old friend, as Splash Mountain makes it to, I told you we were going to get rid of some of the big dogs.
But I feel like I should have brought up the fact that Splash Mountain really needed a refurb.
You know what? If you say Princess Tiana, I disagree.
No. I mean a refurb. Like you actually go in and fix the elements of the ride that are broken.
It did get a refurb, didn't it?
Huh?
I thought it did get a refurb.
No. It hasn't had a refurb in forever.
Well, I don't think they're going to get it now. I'll tell you what. No. I think I hear more people saying, more and more people going, how about Pocahontas? And you know what I think about the whole Princess and the Frog thing? I think it's a great idea. Put it over by that Christmas shop in Liberty Square. It's the closest thing they have to the proper timeline. I think Splash Mountain, it's an Adventureland thing. You should keep it to that area. Make it Pocahontas. Say again?
It's Frontierland, not Adventureland.
Oh, Frontierland. Thank you. Yeah, but point being is, make it Pocahontas. I think it would be like, and everybody's right. They've got the waterfall. Yeah,
indeed.
But that would just mean that we'd probably have to listen to Colors of the Wind.
Yeah. Paint with all the colors of the wind.
I see no loss there.
I do. So, anywho, all right, there we go, guys. Next chance we have, if we hopefully by next week we'll do round 2, but these are the ones that move on into the second round. Walt Disney Railroad beat out the Liberty Square Riverboat. Barnstormer beat the Tomorrowland Speedway. The Monsters Inc. Laugh Floor beat out the Enchanted Tales with Belle. The Enchanted Tiki Room surprisingly beat out Swiss Family Treehouse. The Mad Tea Party beat out Astro Orbiter. Dumbo over Aladdin. The Hall of Presidents, Gailey. defeated Carousel of Progress. See, I told you should be here. The Country Bears beat the PhilharMagic. Buzz Lightyear smacked down the Carousel. Peter Pan conquered the mini adventures of Winnie the Pooh. Tomorrowland People Mover beat Jungle Cruise. The Pirates beat Small World. Haunted Mansion won over Little Mermaid. The Big Thunder Mountain Railroad is a better mountain than the Seven Dwarves. We like to go over them, not under them. And Splash Mountain filled it out there, gang. So, any big disappointments?
I liked everyone's choices. Honestly, I think everyone made very good points.
Well, this is only going to get harder in round 2, gang, which we're going to do. Like I said, maybe we could do it next week, same time.
Sure.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Unless we could come up with a time before that, I'm all cool with it. I love doing these kind of things. I like discussing the rides and everything I grew up with people who know it, and have been there also. All right. Other than that, I can't talk. Other than that, gang, thanks for hanging out with us, Cabbage Head. Dragon Ball RDV was here for a little bit. Robert Roberts and everybody. Leandra, thank you very much for hanging out. Tim, Mark, Dalton, Professor, thank you for playing this game with me. My own family won't do it. Why won't you do this, honey? Why won't? No, but I certainly appreciate you guys hanging out as well. And as always, thank you very, very much for watching. And remember, have a zippity-doo-dah day.